I feel like a lot of the art that I create is based off of looking at images from the past or reading stories or even searching and asking questions about my family. Um, and that's what is inspiring me now. This is an ancestor altar. This photo of a Yoruba Galide mask, which I purchased this last year, and I have it over my altar because these masks they specifically use to like honor the mothers, and that's like the elders, the ancestors, in the community. So I thought that it would be a great tool to have to honor my ancestors. Up here right now, I have some people that have passed away. I'm in every picture up here with the people that I'm sort of giving honor to, I suppose, and people that sort of visit me frequently when I'm dreaming. So affirmations that I wrote down, and it was right when I was starting school here, and those two affirmations are so alive right now in my life. The first one says, I have an inherent right to my creativity. And the second one says, I speak from my heart and my truth. So this painting sort of organically came about. Initially, I was working with the idea of the color, the word black, yet written in brown, right? And I just started pouring different black mediums and different liquids on the canvas. And then over time, it just started to feel like this collective mass, like this like collective weight of like being black, right? Which, I mean, we're actually brown, right? So like it's just like this whole idea of like the weight of like the word black, right? Like and how heavy that is. So this is actually upside down, right? So the little drips right here, this used to be the bottom. But when I was done and I flipped it upside down, I really like the idea of like the drips symbolizing people or souls, like these little lumps up there, and that like when it's upside down, every spot on here sort of can represent a person or a soul versus the other way where it's obvious that it's running down. This print is called Save Our Ship, and I just one day had this bright idea that I was gonna like etch this copper plate and then do all the processes backwards and see what was gonna happen. And so then I came up with this really cool ship that's representative of the millions of Africans that were brought over during the slave trade. I think it's one of my favorite, especially on this amazing paper. All right, so this is a portrait of my family. Um, this is an original darkroom photo from a story that the Oregonian did on my family back in '69 when my grandfather purchased the house on 7th and Fremont with the help of the housing bond law that had just passed. So for the longest time, nobody knew where this photo was. All we had was this like old tattered newspaper from the original paper, and it'd been laminated and it's like falling apart. And one day, all of a sudden, my cousin, like we have this group message going, and my cousin messages us and is like, "Hey y'all, they're selling our photo." And I was like, "Wait, hold on, I'm buying it. Where is this at?" And my first thought was like, "Why didn't you just buy it, right?" Like, so I got on there. It was there. I bought it for $30. It was folded in half, which whatever. But it's the original darkroom photo. On the back of the photo, it has like all of the original writing. Um, and then so I thought it would be really cool to try and etch this on copper. So then we have this right here. This was my very first copper etching. I almost can't believe that I made this. Like, it's, when you look at this and then you look at this photo, it's like, it's super cool. The inks that I chose and sort of the like organic way that there's like marks on the paper just came by not knowing what I was doing and not trying to have a perfect plate. So this print here is titled 100% cotton. I had wanted to somehow incorporate cotton into an etching, and I had no idea how that was going to happen. With Cammie's help, we created this sweet baby right here. I took some cotton that was still like in the bowl, and I dipped it in hard ground, and I just like little like daubers all over the copper plate. Spray paint aqua tinted it, and it came out to this like amazing print right here that if I didn't tell you that it was made with cotton, it sort of would be like, how did you even do that? And I wanted to do this because like my grandpa was a sharecropper. And I remember growing up, he would tell me that that he used to wear burlap clothes, like clothes that were made out of burlap bags. And they would go out and they would just like pick cotton all day. And this was like as soon as he was able to like pick cotton and like put it in a bag, that's what he did. So this is like, I don't know, cotton is very important to, I don't know, the foundation of my family, I suppose. So there's that. This, I decided that I was going to title it Ghost Ship. And the reason why is because this print is all of the ghost prints from the prints that I have in here right now, which means I had made all my prints, I was all done, and I just had a little bit of ink left on the plate. And so I just took this piece of paper and I was very curious about how it was going to come out and what it would look like. This was sort of an experiment. I had taken a collage that I had made while I was at PCC and I scanned it and made some copies and I just threw it on the board because I had an assignment to do. And I was also very curious about like how to make paint drip, how to sort of create like that texture. And I also at the same time didn't want to cover up all of the images or leave a lot of the image. So I sort of had to find this balance where I was still able to see the image. There was a lot of drip marks and it was very abstract. Like I didn't want there to be a lot of brush strokes. I just wanted it to sort of be this like thrown together thing that was something that like represented slavery and the fact that like, you know, we survived that. So that's what this is. So this is my very first sugar lift. Sugar lifting is amazing, and I don't think that I ever thought that you would use sugar to print anything or etch anything. So it's just an organic print using a paintbrush, some sugar, and that's how it washes off. Dish soap, India ink, and sugar. And the idea is that you have this nice copper plate, you put the sugar lift mixture on your plate, and you let that dry, then you hard ground it down, you let that dry, and then you get some hot water, wash all of the sugar lift off, and those spots on the plate are exposed, and that's where you can sort of like etch and get this like really cool design that you cannot get from sort of like scratching at the copper. So her name is Queen Sugar because she's a sugar lift and she's the first. Also, sugar was one of the things that slaves grew on plantations. So I think that it's really cool that, I mean, like, sugar can be used for so many things, and I had no idea that it could be used for printing. So I'm super excited about that one. The next three paintings were part of an assignment, and it was an assignment that was like, well, we picked these two titles or these two words out of like a bag, and mine was family and pattern. And so I had to create three paintings that were part of a family pattern. And to keep myself from not stressing too much and not being a perfectionist, I had to do it like abstractly. They may not look like a pattern, but they are. This one right here is all acrylic. Once I got to this point, I really liked how it looked, and I didn't think that I needed to add anything else. I really like because it's purple and red, and growing up, I didn't think purple and red went together, but as an adult, purple and red is my favorite, absolute favorite thing to put together. I was a bully to somebody once because they wore purple and red to school, and I just remember being a complete jerk to her. And so when I made this painting and it was purple and red, it was almost like I was able to like process the fact that like I was like I'm not that like kid, right? Like that made fun of somebody because of like what they were wearing at school, which in reality is like amazing together, right? Like I remember her saying like, my mom is into fashion and my mom dressed me, and I just was like, whatever, it's ugly, right? But like look at this, it's like totally beautiful. Like so this is sort of like, I don't know, paying respect to that person that like just totally stood up to me and was like, whatever, dude, like you're crazy. But the title for this is Heat on a Cold Day. This painting reminds me a little bit of the military. And it just could be that there's like that yellow and green in there. When I started this, it was just like a bunch of red, oranges, and yellows, which then was like, you can't help but think of McDonald's when you have like red and yellow. So I had to fix it. I had to like sit and figure out like what colors are gonna go with what I have going on. And then I added the green and purple, and it's not the color of fatigue, but it's very, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of like uniformity. So this is my very first painting here at PNCA. I didn't know what I was doing. It started out with primary colors because that's how it started. And Michelle Ross, my mentor, had me looking at Joan Mitchell and sort of like investigating negative space, and I had like taken all the negative space away, so then I had to rebuild negative space, and I was so confused by negative space. But that confusion led to this. And so like I'm super grateful. I really like this, and I have a really large canvas that I intend to do another sort of like abstract thing like this. And it did not start this way. This started with charcoal and graphite, and I had drawn, like organically drawn this like photo that I had taken with a fire hydrant and just like bushes. And like that's what it was. It was just this like scribbly fire hydrant and bushes. And I just over time added color and played with acrylics for a while, and then when I was done with that, I added in some oils, and eventually it was done. So this is my baby. Painting just, once again, no plan. I was reminded in a class last semester about Devonte Hart, and I thought that it would be really cool to spend some time thinking about Devonte Hart and how his situation may have been different. So if you don't know who that is, Devonte Hart was a kid that was adopted by two white women. He had probably like 5 siblings that were all siblings of color. And over like a span of however many years, this family moved from different states to sort of like evade child protective services. There's a lot of reports of abuse and neglect, and every time a report happened, the parents would uproot the family and they'd move, and then same thing would happen, and then they'd move them again. So when Michael Brown was killed by the police, there was this huge protest here, and it was a Black Lives Matter protest. And one day, you know, the news comes on, and there's this like little black kid, right? And he's got on a leather jacket and this hat, and he has a sign that says like "Free Hugs." And you know, at the time, I didn't question it. I just was sort of like, oh wow, there's this kid that's at this protest, and he's walking around with a free hug sign. Like, great. So he walks up to the protest line, and the cop and this kid like engage in an embrace. It was all over the news. It was everywhere. Everybody saw this thing. So then maybe 2 years later, we learned that this kid is killed along with his siblings by his parents, who they were living in Washington at the time. More reports with CPS. The parents decide to put all the kids in the van, drive to California, and they drove off of the cliff. Still to this day, they've not found his body. And I just like, I started to think like, if that was my kid, if that was my son, and people are protesting out there because a black man was killed, there's no way that I would allow my 8 or 10-year-old black son to be at a protest with a sign that says "Free Hugs." I don't even know where a kid like that sort of exists. Like, I don't know of, I have cousins that are this age. I probably couldn't pay them enough to go up to a cop in a protest with a free hug sign. Like, kids at that age don't really engage with strangers on that sort of level. So I was super curious. I was just like, what, you know, like, what's going on? Like, in what world, like, is this okay? Who's seeking the attention here? Like, is it the kid or is it the parents, right? And so when he was asked like why he was crying, Devonte Hart said he was crying because of like the climate of the country. And it's like, I wonder if like in reality, like his tears were because he saw his family in Michael Brown, right? Like, he saw himself, and he's living in this situation with 2 white parents who are abusing him and feeling like there's no other way out, right? And like being forced to or manipulated into doing these things for validation and attention by the parents. It's inspired by Mary Lovelace O'Neill. This painting was so big, and I had never painted anything this big, that I didn't know what I was doing. I had to literally go like small spots at a time, because I just couldn't understand how people can paint so big and just, I don't know, sort of plan it out and figure it out. So there's a lot of colors in here, a lot of like exploration with movement, some drips, some splatters, and I just was like, I was having fun. I, again, was like not thinking about what the outcome would look like. I just was going for it. I think this is the first time I used monochromatic black as well, which is really cool because it's like 3 or 4 different colors that make this black color. So like right here where it sort of like fades out, like that's just the monochromatic black and white sort of mixed together. And like, so this is like my favorite part right here. I mean, I have a lot of favorite parts, but like I think this was like, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm getting somewhere. So. Thank you. So this is a 100% cotton flag made by this company named Defiance. I acquired this flag when I was stationed at McCord Air Force Base. When the flags that are flown on military bases, when they become like old and tattered, they replace them. I actually have a feeling that they replace them once a month, but I can't remember. So I was asking somebody that I knew then if I could have one, and he was like, "I'll do you one better. I'll give you this flag. It's really, really old. There's a couple holes in it, but you know, it's like the best thing." So I've been holding onto this flag for probably 20 years. It's just been folded. And then I had this idea to paint it on one side with the African American flag. And the back side is still the original American flag. There are some spots over here where like the black has bled through. That's totally fine, and it's like a mistake or an accident that I was wanting to happen. To get this ready to be painted, I painted it 3 or 4 times with acrylic matte medium so that it would hold the colors and so that it would not completely bleed through. So again, it's made out of 100% cotton. Like when I started painting this and I saw that like the company's name was Defiance and that it was cotton, I was just like, wow, like some of the first American flags were produced by slaves, right? Like they picked the cotton, they probably spun the cotton, they sewed the flag, they put the flag together, they, you know, did all these things for, our country. So here we are.